Today, we are talking about the importance of planning for long-term care.
Welcome to Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, your guide to navigating home health care with confidence. Hosted by Andrea Albertini, founder and CEO of Horizon Care Services, an industry leader in private duty home care in South Florida. To learn more, visit horizoncareservices.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I am your host for Senior Care Made Simple podcast, Andrea Albertini. Today, I don't have Doris in the studio, and I know that a lot of you always love to hear Doris and I talk, but unfortunately, she had a family emergency, and her flight got delayed from New York. Today, I'm very excited to tell you we have an amazing guest. His name is John Browning, and he is from Guardian Rock Wealth Management. And I'm excited to have him here today because he's very different than a lot of the wealth managers I have met before. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, John.
Good morning. It's good to be here. And I know everybody around the nation is listening in at various times. So good afternoon and good evening as well.
Awesome. So here's what I want to talk to you guys about. So I'm 61 years old, right, John? And you and I had this conversation when we met. And it took me a long time to be able to find the right wealth manager to do my my financial planning, my retirement planning, and everything. Now, being in this business as long as I had a very stubborn husband who always believed that your money should be in a bank. So part of that was that. And then meeting so many of you out there, I was very impressed how you actually do things. And I want you to share with the listeners. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this amazing journey of wealth management and how are you here today?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. It was a long time, about 28 years working on Wall Street. I was based in Chicago, but spent a lot of my time at O'Hare Airport, flying back and forth to New York and California and all of that. And I really started out right out of college and essentially just put in a lot of hours, exactly what you tend to hear about on Wall Street, and eventually became one of those annoying people in the corner office with, that put the feet up on the desk. And and it really does happen, just like in the movies in many cases. And from there, when 9/11 happened, I happened to be in Chicago, and I was working on the trading desk. And we began to realize that this was not just an accident, that it was real and that it was a terrorist act. And a lot of my friends passed away.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
A lot of them, believe it or not, on Wall Street, you're making a lot of money. A lot of people make a lot of money. They're high earners. And because of that, they get into a position where they actually don't do their own wealth management. So it's kind of like the cobbler's kids have no shoes. And from there, I began to realize how much of my life I had kind of missed. I'd missed out on some of my kids' events and things like that because I was building a portfolio rather than a life. And a very bad financial decision to quit your lucrative Wall Street career right then. So in the back of my mind, I began planning for how do I exit big Wall Street and help kind of the real people. The people without $100 million or, $20 or $50 million. How do I do that? Take everything I learned on Wall Street and apply it to individuals in the right way, a way that doesn't eat away everything that they have with fees and all of that. And so eventually I opened Guardian Rock Wealth, and that's how I came to be here today.
That is wonderful. Absolutely amazing. And speaking to you when we met, I was just really impressed in how, again, you take every individual and find out what their needs really, really are. and put something together for them. And it's not like, okay, I'm going to put them in this fund because I'm going to make more money on this, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's mostly finding out what the really needs are. How old are they? When are you thinking about retiring and doing the right thing by them? So can you please share with us also some of the financial mistakes that a lot of people do?
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest mistakes is not starting with how you want your life to be. People tend to start with, and even in advisors, most of the time start with the money. Now, money is just the tool that you use to build your best life. It's not the end goal. So where we start with, what is your goal? What is it that you really want your life to look like? Because financial independence isn't a dollar figure at the end of the day. It's being able to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, where you want, at a certain point in time. And preferably before you get to the point where it's hard to do certain things that you would like to do. And it's all the things that happen in between as well. So we start there, and then we begin to use the tool that we call money to architect an entire wealth management plan, not just about portfolio management, but also about the types of tools within this that you can use that best serve you. And that is usually very different for each individual and family.
Right. That's amazing because, again, in what I feel that a lot of people are missing out, start early. You got out of college, you got your first job. That is like the best time for you to be able to start. Just putting some money away for you to be able to have enough to say, okay, let me find the right wealth manager that I can, help plan my life, like you said. So that's absolutely amazing. So again, when do you usually get those kind of people? Do you get them later in life? Do you get them middle age? Do you get them young? What do you see happening in your industry?
It's really interesting. So most of the time, we get them right before or right after they realize that they need to retire or want to retire. And that's kind of unfortunate because I do have some younger, I call them kids because, well, I'm old. And so everybody under 30 is kind of a kid, right? But I get these young adults that come to me and they don't have a lot of money and, saved up yet. And they're like, I'm sure you won't work with me. And I said, no, let's take a look and see what we can do because I want to reward those people who are thinking about it early. So I do have a very small, unfortunately, subset of younger adults that we work with. As long as they are building and committed to the process, we'll take them on and we'll build a wealth management plan that builds with them as they build their life. But for the most part, it's people that are maybe they're in their 50s, early 60s, and they're starting to think about retirement, or maybe something happened that sort of forced their hand. Maybe it's a health issue, or maybe they start realizing it because their parents have started to have some issues and it makes them think about their situation. And then they're trying to figure out, what do I do with my parents' money? And a lot of times their parents' money is just stuck at banks and CDs and earning less than inflation. And suddenly they have these big healthcare bills or care bills, which you're very familiar with.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of when I tend to get people. They start thinking about it then. And it's not too late, but you can do so much more if you start a little bit earlier.
It's very interesting what you just said. So I come across a lot of young people between, I would say, 30, right? 30, younger than, I'm 61. I don't know how old you are, but it's between 30 and probably 60 who really doesn't have a lot of money, but especially those 30 to 50 who may have maybe $30,000 or $50,000 or $100,000. That's all they have. And they want to do some planning, and they want to vest it every single month, on that. So nobody's doing that. Usually it's like you have to have a net worth or 3 million or 5 million or 10 million in order for you to be able to find a wealth manager that can do that. So it's really great to hear that. And, a lot of our listeners are the age between 25 and 60. So that way, people can learn more about those things. And again, find out who is the best financial planner for you. But, you have clients all over the world. So even though you're located in Palm Beach, if somebody's listening that is from New York or New Jersey or anywhere, they can contact you. We'll have all your information in the show notes so everybody can contact you if they have any questions or if they need anything. But that's really exciting. I love that. Yeah,
we never want the thought, like most financial institutions, and I understand it. It makes sense. You don't make it doesn't put food on my table if you have, a small account.
Right.
But I never want that to get in the way of building your best life. And that's why we can be different, is because I separated from Wall Street. Because if I worked at a big firm, I wouldn't be able to do that. They wouldn't even allow it. But I never want that to get in the way of people getting a good, solid start. And then hopefully when they get, more assets, I get to benefit from that. As they grow, we get to grow.
Absolutely. And actually, I'm in the senior services, and you and I had this discussion. And, we here in my business, so our business, I would say 80% of the time is the children that is calling us to say, I need care for my mom, or I need care for my dad, right? And, and they find out how much it costs.
And it's a shock.
And it's like, oh my God, it's going to go through all the money my parents have, all the money they saved. I'm not going to have anything for myself, right?
I get that. You feel a little bit selfish if you feel that way. But I get the feeling. And then you think about, as their child, you want to take care of them. And then you start thinking, am I going to have to write a check out of my own checking account to take care of mom and dad? Happens all the time.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that planning earlier, it's not just planning your retirement and how you want to have fun, how you want to travel the world, or how you want to get a beach house or a lake house for you to retire and sit by the patio and you have a glass of wine or nothing like that. Also, I think people don't think about where do I want to be, and how do I want to become when I become that I can no longer drive, that I can no longer care for myself. Where do I want to be? What do I want for myself? Do I want to stay home with private duty home care? Do I want to go to assisted living? Or if I haven't planned, we have people who never plan that end up in a Medicaid bed on a nursing home, and some of them are not even nursing home material. They could be in an assisted living, right? So, and I think that a lot of people are not thinking about that. Like how is my life going to be when I can no longer drive?
Right. And we really try and help people think that through, maybe not when they're 20 or 30, but we do mention it because you would be surprised how many people here's the biggest risk that a younger person has, is that they're in an accident or they have a healthcare event and they don't pass away. Now that's a shocking statement, right?
Absolutely.
But what happens is that they can no longer do the job that was making them money, and they don't have any disability insurance, or very little. They're very underinsured. And nobody likes to talk about insurance, right? Because I don't like to talk about insurance either. But it's not just about your assets and putting that together. Wealth management is much bigger and wider. And it goes into not just how to grow your wealth, but how to protect your wealth and protect your life that you want to live at the same time. And then that goes into, as you become older, you start really thinking about it, because things don't work as well as they used to. I used to jump down out of the bed of a truck, no problem. Now I get down, I sit down on the bed of the truck, and I slowly slide off because my knees won't do that well anymore. And it's little things like that are just precursors to how our bodies progress. And as your body begins to tell you things, you need the tool that we call money to maybe help do the things that you can't do well anymore. Maybe pay somebody to do that. Buy your time back, because your time becomes your most precious resource as you get older as well.
Yes.
So how do you do that, and how do you plan for that is a lot about what we do. So it's not just about building assets. It's about really planning for, like you said, the life that you want.
Exactly. And I think that getting those phone calls, really scares some of the children, and talk about long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance is not what it used to be.
No.
I mean, I remember people would buy, $200 a day, $500 a day, $300 a day. And even though it was expensive back then, right? It's now is even more expensive because people are living longer. And a lot of those policies doesn't even exist anymore. What have you seen lately?
You're correct. It's definitely not what it used to be. It used to be that for a very reasonable cost, you could purchase insurance that would cover you, to your point, for $200 a day. Well, now it's more expensive than that. You could speak to this better than I could, but $300 a day to pay for care is not abnormal to see, at least not here in South Florida. And I know not back up in Chicago where we used to live either. So it's gotten more expensive. And also the thing that long-term care insurance used to be able to buy it for a reasonable cost. And then the insurance companies realized we're losing money on this. So then it became much more expensive. And your traditional long-term care insurance was something that you would pay into and possibly never use.
Right.
And there was no cash value to it. Nobody inherited that. Now there are ways, if you understand the insurance business, that you can create something that has a cash value. So if you were to never need it or never use it, you could use it for something else. Or if you do pass away before you need it, your heirs could get it. And as a matter of fact, when they inherit that, they inherit it tax-free, which is another huge part of wealth management.
That's amazement. Yes, that's amazing.
Because your most expensive thing that we all pay for, and this goes for everyone, is not your mortgage payment. It's not your car payment. It's taxes.
Yes.
So if you manage the way that you pay your taxes, and the ultra high net worth people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just managing their taxes. The middle of the road and even some of those high earners don't think about it. They think it's just something I have to pay this amount. If you manage it well and correctly, it can be a lot less. But that gets away from the long-term care insurance topic. But that's how long-term care insurance has changed. You don't have to purchase that sort of old-fashioned policy that you may never use, and you might just be, frankly, pouring money down into the coffers of the insurance company. There are other ways to do it now.
Which is very exciting because, like you said, it has a cash value. So you never lose your money. And you can cash in anytime, right?
You can. You obviously lose the benefit if you cash in. But yeah, that's a possibility. Absolutely.
Wow. That's amazing. I always live and learn every day. That's why I absolutely love to meet people such as yourself, bring it on the show and share with everyone, all those things, because information is one of the most priceless things that you could carry with you, right?
That's right.
And it's like the other day I had somebody call me for something. Somebody was talking to me about something. I'm going to go, oh, I know somebody. I know somebody that can help you. So, it's knowing and understanding and is the best tool ever. So now, what role does the long-term care planning play in solid retirement strategy that you would recommend? Is it based on age, based on where they are in their lives?
So if you start early with long-term care planning, it's a lot less expensive. But sometimes when you're younger, you just can't afford it. And that's legitimate. When you live in someplace like New York City or California and Southern California or South Florida, for instance, things are expensive. When you're young, you're just trying to get by. It can be very difficult. So then people get frustrated because it becomes so much more expensive as you get older because you're close to having to maybe use it.
Yeah.
So the insurance companies bump that up. But with some of the tools that are available today, you can get a form of long-term care insurance up into your 70s. So I don't want people to think, oh, it's just not possible for me to cover anything for long-term care. You can absolutely do that. And it does play a very important part in the whole wealth management plan because, as you are well aware, it's expensive.
Yes, very expensive.
It can be 10 grand a month, easy, right?
Yeah.
8-10 grand a month, that goes through 100 grand very quickly.
It averages about $10,500 to $22,000 a month for care.
Yeah.
If you have around the clock care, either like for instance, a live-in in South Florida is $450 a day. So if you have a policy that is $200 a day, you have to pay the balance. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
or no policy, that gets
or
really,
no policy, it gets
really
right.
expensive.
I mean, and I have families who had to sell their home, mom and dad's home, and put mom on a 2-bedroom apartment with a caregiver just to be able to afford mom's care. And that's something, we try to do here. So, this is great to know because we are able to then refer people to you and say, hey, John, this is what's going on with this family. Can you help?
I actually have a quick story about that, if you don't mind if I go into that.
Please share.
This just happened this past year at Guardian Rock Wealth. A long-time client. I had spoken to her. Things didn't seem quite right. She had a power of attorney both for healthcare and for her financial matters. I felt like it was my fiduciary duty, which means that I place my own interests above, or I place, fiduciary means that I place your interest above my own.
Sure.
And when things didn't seem quite right, I called her POA, which was her daughter, and I asked her, I said, things don't seem quite right. She said, how so? And she said, yeah, we realized mom's been slipping. We're not sure what to do. And I went through how she should enact the power of attorney, what things they should plan for. This particular lady had a very expensive house in Michigan, and they were able to sell that. And what I was not able to convince them to do was not to put that whole amount. It was about $900,000. They did not put that amount into something that was creating cash flow for them. Instead, they put it into the bank because they were afraid. Fear makes us do things that aren't logical or aren't, frankly, smart.
Absolutely. Every day.
So what happened is her care is very expensive. It's about $12,000 a month. They have already realized they have gone through this has been over a period of years. So this year they called me and said, we need to start using her funds that are in the account. And they asked me, how long do you think these funds are going to last? Because we've already gone through almost $900,000 over the past couple of years. And when I figured out the math, I said, listen, the best I can do, and we have ways of creating significant cash flow, which is, by the way, the single most important thing you can control. People don't realize you can control it, and that there's things besides treasury bonds, there's things besides corporate bonds, there's things besides dividends that you can do to increase your cash flow. And many, many financial advisors are not aware or are unable to do that. We were able to get her cash flow going, but it's still only going to last for about 4 years. Why? Because they were so afraid that they left this $900,000 in a basically earning 1-2% in the bank, which didn't even keep up with inflation.
And it happens all the time. It happens, Actually, it happens with me. in my own life. And because, again, that's how my husband was before he passed away. It was the same way. It's like, we're going to keep the money in the bank. We don't need life insurance. We don't need this. We don't need that. But, you have to take up on yourself, and you got to do it. You got to do it. It's very, very important. And even to be have a healthcare surrogate, have a power of attorney if something happened to you. So, John, thank you so much for coming today and join us in our podcast. Thank you for this amazing information that you were able to share with our listeners. And then I really hope that if anybody's out there with a question, want to get a hold of you, all your information will be down in the show notes. And if anyone wants to come on the show and talk about anything and everything, they can always email us at seniorcaremade-simple-podcast@gmail.com.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be here. I'm very appreciative that you had me on the show. And maybe at some point we'll have you on the Building Your Life podcast, which we do every other week as well.
I would love that. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Please share a little bit about your podcast, because I've been hearing about it. I'm so excited, and I'm seeing all over LinkedIn. And I was very excited that you wouldn't share that with us. Please do so.
Yeah, so the Building Your Life podcast kind of came out of the book that I wrote several years back called Build a Life, Not a Portfolio.
Which I'm starting to read.
Oh, good.
And I'm going to make an appointment with you for us to talk about my stuff. So.
All right, great. I look forward to that. But when I wrote the book, Build a Life, Not a Portfolio, it was all about my experience and the transition from Wall Street to doing what I do at Guardian Rock Wealth. And from there, it was suggested, hey, this is ongoing. Things continue to change in the wealth management field. Why don't you start a podcast? So we began the Building Your Life podcast almost I think it's been 4.5 years now. We've got 270 some episodes out there.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And we cover everything from information for entrepreneurs and small businesses to very real-to-life individual things that you might not think about every day, and how you can build your life using the tool that we call money. And we even hit current events like, how does AI, artificial intelligence, interact with the other AI, which is actual intelligence, and how that can work to your benefit and how it can work against you if you don't understand it. We do all sorts of topics, and it comes out every other week, so twice a month. And then every morning we do the morning update, and that you can find on Substack. And that's Building Your Life with John Browning Substack morning update. And it's about 10 minutes long, and we go below the headlines, and we talk about, for about 10 minutes, we go into, okay, yes, you saw all this stuff on CNBC or all these major news networks, what it really means to you in your long-term portfolio and building your life with the tool we call money, and how you should think about it rather than just reacting to the news stories every morning.
That's wonderful. And I know that you do some educational seminars, and I also know that you do a lot of public speaking.
Right.
So if any of you out there around our country is interested in having John come in and do anything, please contact him. Like I said, his information will be down in the show notes, so you guys can get a hold of John. Or you can always email us at seniorcaremade-simple-podcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much, John. It was a pleasure having you. And we'll be seeing each other again and having you on a show again. And I'm excited to be on your podcast as well.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Have a great day, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us once again. This is Andrea Albertini, your host for Senior Care Made Simple podcast. Have a great day, everybody.
Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, has been brought to you by Horizon Care Services, your private duty choice in home care in South Florida. For more information on acquiring home care assistance, visit horizoncareservices.com.